Okay, great to be here. Reinventing food, from milk to meat and greens. I'm joined by Uma, Matias, Viraj, 3 entrepreneurs building 3 very different companies. Please start by introducing yourselves and give us a quick overview of what you're building. Uma, kick us off.
Thanks, Fred. My name is Valeti. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Upside Foods. We're based in Berkeley and Emeryville, California. We were founded in late 2015, and we started an industry along with our company with the idea that you could grow meat directly from animal cells instead of growing the animals. So it's real meat without the need for raising and slaughtering billions of animals. And the idea is you can preserve choice of the most favorite food we like, but improve the process significantly along the way. And in the last 6 years, we've kind of pioneered almost all the breakthroughs in the space, and we just got regulatory approval from the FDA about 4 months ago. We're looking to get to market later this year.
Amazing.
Matias.
Fred, hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Matias. I am the CEO and the founder of NotCo. We are a company that utilizes artificial intelligence to create plant-based version of traditionally animal-based foods. We're a company that was born and raised in Latin America, in Chile specifically. And from there, we grew to Argentina, to Brazil, to Colombia, Mexico, the US, Canada. We partner up with Starbucks, Burger King, Papa John's, Shake Shack very recently. So if you haven't tried it yet, go to your nearest Shake Shack, and you can actually order the non-dairy milkshake. That was a tailor-made formula made by us. Now very recently, we've entered this realm of the Intel Inside kind of the food industry with a partnership with 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿, where we're developing all of the plant-based versions of their own products, Philadelphia, mac and cheese, and so on. So glad to be here and to be talking a little bit more about this crazy thing called the future of food.
I'll vouch for your products. Amazing.
Thanks. Looking forward to yours.
Viraj.
Good afternoon, Viraj Puri. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gotham Greens. We are an agribusiness and consumer food brand headquartered right here in New York City, although we have operations in 10 US states. We're in the business of building and operating technologically advanced greenhouse facilities for vegetable production. And then we locate these facilities in and around the major metropolitan areas around the country so that we can deliver fresh produce to our supermarket customers. Our products are available in about 6,000 supermarkets across the country: Kroger, Whole Foods, Costco, Publix, among others. And we're using advanced data science, sensors, hydroponic equipment, automation, conveyors to essentially produce very high yields of perishable commodities using a fraction of the resources compared to conventional farming. So what we can grow in 1 acre of greenhouse would require 30 or 40 acres out in the field. What we can grow using 1 gallon of water would require 40 gallons of water in the field. So today our company has about 40 acres of greenhouse. That's about 2 million square feet under glass, and we're rapidly expanding.
Terrific, thank you. I want to jump in right at the deep end. When I think about the first chapter of reinventing food, it was the decade 2010 to 2020. It was characterized by a handful of companies who made plant-based products and captured public attention and zeitgeist. And that period was also defined by competition and disruption, whether it was incumbents or going against each other as other startups. When we think about chapter 2, this decade from 2020 to 2030, how will this chapter be defined from your perspective, and how will it be different to the last? And Matias, I'd like you to answer first.
I can do that. So you're right. I think we're going into a second wave, a second generation of these kinds of companies. I think very importantly, what defines success in this second wave is how unique you created your company in the first place, right? So I think NotCo in this space was very unique in the sense that we maybe discovered that AI was going to redefine the way we do things in the future. And now ChatGPT is a little bit telling us that, right? OpenAI and all of the AI companies that are coming. 7 years ago, we discovered that AI was going to reshape the whole industry. So we decided that the technology that we would be creating and developing to reshape the industry was going to be artificial intelligence. So today we kind of like have the ChatGPT of the food space, right? So what we can do with that, yes, one thing is to create plant-based version of traditionally animal-based products, but we can start doing way more than that, right? So we've created modules, for example, to put up with broken supply chains. Food scientists generally spend 70% of their time changing ingredients in a formulation. Formulations generally are multidimensional problems. So if you're not assisted by artificial intelligence, you have a big, big problem, right? So we kind of like created an AI-assisted platform that all of our food scientists are taking into their hands, and they're producing food products faster, better, more accurate, less costly than anyone else in the space. And so the next generation of products, it's not only plant-based. Plant-based is just an incredible good thing to have. It's more about the elevated version of what we know about food, right? Can we go even further? Can we do a better burger than what already exists at the right price and over-deliver on the promise? If we're not over-delivering on the promise, then we have a problem. I mean, I think the only way that this industry, and especially it's going to get more sustainable, is if it's, we achieve mass market placement. And for NotCo, that has been the challenge. How do we really move the needle accessing the mass market? And that's how we made it. We made it with Starbucks, with Burger King. We penetrated, in Chile, which was our first Starbucks project. We got 15% in only 10 months of sales of all of the drinks sold with milk were with not milk. And that was incremental to all of the plant-based, other plant-based milks. So people were switching from cow's milk into not milk specifically. So that's the angle, right? So this is the new generation. It's the generation of the mass market access with incredibly tasty, good tasting product, but also at the right price, because plant-based and sustainable products are still the Ivy League of this industry, and we need to change that.
Should we expect incumbents and other startups to use AI more and more?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's availability of AI for practically everyone. The way you use it is most importantly. And for companies that weren't born with this mentality of utilizing AI in all of their process, they're going to have a big problem, right? Because they don't know how to use it. They might have data, but the data is spread out in Excel spreadsheets. And I'm telling you this, firsthand because we've encountered this. Big companies say that they have incredible data. The data is in Excel spreadsheets in every laptop in the companies. And those are like 40,000 laptops, and putting everything together is going to be hard. So there is access to AI, but the way you use AI is the most important thing. Your algorithms are going to be as good as your data is. So if you haven't collected the right data, you're going to have a big, big problem.
Yeah. Uma, what does Chapter 2 have in store for Upside?
Well, it's great to ask the question about, if you define last decade, including 2013, 14, 15, we didn't even exist, right? So that decade was defined by companies coming out and talking about building the awareness around the impact of food, choices, climate, and they did a fantastic job building awareness. And it was also about adopting alternatives. I think in this decade, I think it's become important to recognize while consumers are really willing to adopt alternatives, there is a really large group that wants to preserve the choice. And it's all about preserving choice while also preserving the things we care about, the upside for animal welfare, environment, and clearly an opportunity to improve health. So when I look at this decade, where as an industry, we were just born. There was no companies in this space until we started it.
Right.
Now, if you look in this decade, what's happening, there's about 150 companies across the world in almost every continent. There's PhD and undergrad programs that have started in the top food and ag universities, specifically in the field of cultivated meat. We've got regulators across the world looking to approve products in the space, and thankfully FDA led the way, and we have the first FDA-approved product for cultivated meat, and we have a lot more to come. But I think the generation is going to be defined by the ability to compete at the same time as collaborate, because the market is so large. It's $2 trillion and it's doubling in the next 30 years, and there's room for enough players. So if all the current food manufacturers are manufacturing what they're manufacturing right now, and we want to preserve the choice of having meat from real animal cells on the table, we just cannot double that by putting another 70 billion animals on the planet. So I think if we want to preserve that choice, there is no other technology that can put real meat on the table outside of cultivated meat. And that's what really brought in incumbents together So investors in us include Tyson and Cargill and Givaudan and a lot of really well-established incumbents. And they see that they can fill the delta with a product that preserves choice for a consumer. That's number one. And then the second thing is, when you look at the first principle advantages of growing meat from an animal cell, it takes us 2 weeks to grow meat. Compare it with 12 weeks for a chicken or 9 months for a pig or 2 years for a cow. In 2 weeks, you're making meat. And therefore, less inputs, less water use, less greenhouse gas emissions. And those advantages add up as you scale. I think when people recognize the first principle advantage plus the ability to preserve choice, it becomes an inevitable future.
Yeah.
And we are building the key building blocks so people can believe what we say on a slide. It's built, now it's producing. They can come and taste it. They can come and tour the production facility that literally looks like this with glass doors where you can see meat being produced inside. So I think the tasting, the tour, the track record of the team, I think these become really important. And we're building this thing called the big tent where incumbents can come along and start adopting their processes. The next generation of farmers are all the fresh graduates who are coming in, right? Most of our applicants are who've been graduating, but don't want to go into traditional farming, and the average age of a farmer in the US is 60 years. So we feel like we're offering high wage, high opportunity jobs in parts of the country that people want to live, and meat does not have to be on the outskirts. So there's a lot of transformation I'm looking to see in the next 10 years.
How far away are we from being able to buy Upside products in stores?
I am very envious of Matias, right? Because he's like ready, he's out there. This is a highly regulated field. It's for the first time food like this is coming from animal cells. So FDA went through a very thorough and rigorous process over the last several years. USDA is doing the same. So once regulatory approval comes, hopefully this year, we'll be on the market this year in restaurants. And next year also in restaurants. We have a production facility in California that will supply and do all of that. It will also show manufacturing partners how the whole thing can be de-risked end-to-end. We are in the process of building a much larger production facility in the United States, which we'll announce next quarter. That will have the capacity to make tens of millions of pounds and expand in place to make more. That's when we think we can get into retail, limited retail still.
Yep.
But the idea is to show that that production box can be replicated in any zip code. And if we hit that, that's an inflection point that's going to be hard to come back from. And that's really what we're laser focused on.
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
Right?
Viraj, what does this decade have in store for you?
For us personally, I think it's all about efficiency and scale, sort of literally and figuratively speaking. So I think the last decade or the last generation, as you said, it really captured the zeitgeist of the moment. We saw a lot of capital, a lot of interest, young people caring about farming and food. When I was growing up, no one was talking about food. Wall Street wasn't talking about food. So I do think there's been this, just cultural shift. And I see this next generation as being an evolution of that shift, but everything being more efficient and more scaled. Obviously, given the capital markets, given the business environment today, I think companies are going to have to be more discerning with capital. Investors are going to be more discerning with capital. You have to be more efficient. And literally speaking, I think it's also the decade of climate, right? I mean, nothing new. People have been talking about the impacts of climate change on food supply for the past 10, 20 years, but I think that's going to exponentially increase in this next decade. I think we're going to see many parts of the world that are some of our largest food-producing regions really buckle under the strain of climate change and not be able to produce as much food as they were in previous generations. So you're going to see many more production systems, delivery systems, distribution systems that are tailored to this changing environment. So I think we're going to have to be much more efficient from a resource perspective, a capital perspective. But I think, again, it's a very, very large addressable market, as Uma referenced. I read something recently that food in general, in terms of food production, we're going to need to, by virtue of population growth, we're going to need to produce more food in the next 30 years than we have collectively as humankind for the past 8,000 years. So I know that's a little abstract, but the point is just with ballooning populations, dwindling natural resources, we're going to have to find more efficient ways to produce food sustainably for future generations.
Yeah, so picking up on that, the world's changed a lot even in the last couple of years. This is an era of deglobalization, an era of increasing geopolitical tensions. To what extent are you focused on US onshoring of food production as a national security issue compared with building a business and going for global expansion?
Incredibly, I would say. Our business, in many ways, if you take away some of the resource efficiency and the brand building and some of the science, fundamentally, it's about securing supply chains. If you take the main commodity class that we operate in, which is leafy greens, which is about a $10 billion market in the US and Canada annually, 98% of the production of that $10 billion market is centralized in Salinas, California, one growing region, right? And all that product essentially has to be transported or exported, if you will, across the 50 US states. What many disruptions in the supply chain, whether it's atmospheric rivers, whether it's drought, or the COVID-19 pandemic underscored, is how long that supply chain is. So the value proposition of companies like ours is to do just-in-time manufacturing, almost how like the auto suppliers set up their supply chain, right? So you have a car manufacturer, but next to it you have the seatbelt company, the seat company, the glass company, so on and so forth, right? So we are setting up our greenhouses in and around metropolitan areas close to supermarket distribution centers so we can get the product into the supply chain much, much quicker. So it's about food sovereignty. And during COVID, soon after the onset of the pandemic, the state of Alaska, and this was told to me by the governor of Alaska because he reached out to our company in mid-2020, the state of Alaska is completely reliant on food imports, 99.9% of their food that's consumed in Alaska. And the vast majority of that comes through the Port of Seattle. The Port of Seattle had to close due to COVID. Just there weren't enough longshoremen, dock workers, given COVID. And literally, his people called the governor and said, this state's going to run out of food in 24 hours. So that just sort of and so his administration and folks are looking to, for ways to produce more food in that state, including sort of hydroponic farming for certain commodities. So I think in general, yes, you've seen a lot of Gulf states, you've seen city states in different parts of the world see how reliant they are on food imports, and they're looking to onshore more food production for food sovereignty.
Yeah. I think the other big way that the world has changed in the last couple of years has also been the capital environment. These companies require real capital investment, and that's become much harder to do. And so, put us in the room with your boards when you're discussing how you are thinking about financing not only your companies, but the infrastructure necessary to get to the promised land. Uma, you kick us off.
Yeah, thank you. I would not have expected to be in this position if you asked me in 2016 if anybody would believe in us or invest in us, because it was such a idea rooted in science fiction. And to make it into reality, there was a journey that the investors and the board had to recognize, understand before they joined the company. So I think it's just setting expectations right up front, saying that here's the fundamental principles, here's the science, here's the technology, here's the barriers we'll need to cross, here's the proof of belief. So we had to de-risk it in stages. And the first stage was all about just showing simply, does it taste good? And can you actually grow real meat from animal cells? And we did not focus on anything else, nothing about cost, nothing about scalability. That was phase one. When we did that proof of concept, until then, no one believed, except a handful who backed us from day one, right? But they were taking a chance on me and just the idea. But I'm so grateful for those people for giving the nucleus. But every single thing was a proof point after that. And the first one was science. Yes, the science can be done. It is meat. It's real meat. It's not an alternative. The second one was showing a pathway to lowering cost. And we had to talk about that conversation, saying this is a longer path because you have to secure supply chains for the nutrients that the animal cells need to eat. And similar to animal feed that goes into animals, we started showing an opportunity for that supply chain people to starting to pivot. That's the second proof to show we can do that. That led us to the next round. And at every round, we've done 3 rounds. We have 3 preferred board members. And they're constantly looking at, are we projecting what we think appropriately? And are we actually hitting those milestones off? And as we started doing that and building the track record of showing the path to lowering scale, and then we raised our next round to build a production facility in 13 months, which again, people said not possible. We did it. We raised the funds, and the next day, COVID shut down the entire state of California.
Yeah.
And we built it pre-vaccine, post-vaccine, and still opened it in 13 months. So that gives you the belief and the resiliency of the team. And when we opened it, and the first 6 months were all difficulties, like couldn't operate the plant, it was not working as planned. But the second 6 months, it started hitting its stride. Now we have the proof points that you can do industrial scale under one roof.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about this is going to take huge infrastructure investment. People will not know this. They can't contract it off. They can't give it to a contract manufacturer or outsource the key parts of the technology. You've got to build it in the company to be able to have the heft and the intellectual property knowledge and the experience to be able to now start partnering with a large manufacturing partner or a large supply chain partner or a large ingredient supplier. We believe we've reached that stage now. And from here on, it's all about finding the right partner to work with us to open up the big opportunity. And it is setting expectations. Our board is incredibly supportive. They recognize this is a transformative change. It's going to take, the analogies are obviously electrification of transportation. And we look at it on that scale. And we think it's a national security interest also, for sure, because the supply chains can be secured much better. If everything is traceable, a shorter process, and the fact that COVID actually proved it, I think increased the confidence of people. Before that, when we said high risk of zoonotic diseases with 70 billion animals, people said theoretical risk. It's not theoretical anymore. So I think those have helped. And with the climate impact that we expect to have at scale, we do believe the investors are realistic about it. There's, of course, hype, but the people that have really done diligence on the technology and seeing the first principle advantages have had the belief right from day one.
Yeah. Matias, from a capital structure point of view and from a perspective of bringing people to the company who can move the needle, what do you need to get to the promised land to fulfill your vision?
That's a great question, and I think I can give you my experience coming out of the market in the last 6 months raising our Series D extension, right? So I'm still trying to shake off the mud that I encountered going into the
peak of the pain.
Oh yeah, man, it was brutal. So we've been raising money since 2017, right? We've been in 4 different rounds of funding. We've raised $420 million with a valuation that we got in 2021 of $1.5 billion, right? And so it is a very hard valuation to keep up with, especially when your comparables are a little bit, under-delivering on the promise. I think a lot of the shifts in the market had to do exactly by that, right? We have 2 public companies in which we can focus and see what they have done incredibly well, and maybe what's the opportunity in which we can definitely take advantage of, right? So NotCo is a company that I definitely believe, and especially with the board, I mean, you sit there, Fred, and so you're watching this firsthand, but NotCo is a company that reacts really fast to reality, right? And so whenever we see something, we smell that something is going to happen, we take, really, really harsh decisions. And so we changed the business model of NotCo in, when we started to smell that the economy was going to be, a little bit harsher. And so we don't have the crystal ball, right? Of course, but we decide to act fast. And for NotCo, changing the business model into a physical world only, because the way we've been operating is we've been capitalizing all of our tech and our uniqueness throughout our own products, going to commands, putting into the market, and so on. We do that very efficiently as well. We don't own manufacturing facilities with Coman, absolutely everything. We work and operate very similar to Coca-Cola, where we create the premixes, we send it to co-packers with reconstituted with simple ingredients, and then we buy the final product to them, we keep the IP, and then we sell it directly to distributor or the retailer directly, right? So being that said, as we have a physical operation that is a very interesting, and very efficient one. Now, is that enough? Not at all, right? We see that, the physical world is so dependable on distribution, on oil prices, and with this geopolitical environment, it's really hard to keep up with, right? So what did we do very cleverly? We said, why don't we all start opening up the technology to others, right? We do have a ChatGPT kind of like, why don't we create an API, for other companies to start using this and maybe define NotCo as a Trojan horse for many other companies? Yes, it's true that we're, encountering an incredible complex problem, right? That talks about supply chain, that talks about, kind of like distribution. Like, how do we feed this world, literally, because we don't have enough water, energy, soil, or nutrients to actually feed them or create the foods that we love to eat in order to, to keep the world healthy. So For us, the Intel Inside model was incredible. The jumpstart of that model was Kraft Heinz. And there are many other companies in which we are deploying this Trojan horse phenomenally well. So changing other companies throughout our technology might have been one of the most incredible decisions. And that was what allowed us to really bring the interest from investors to keep on investing in this company, the same valuation at 2021, because they found something that has a potential that maybe is not today present in the market.
Yeah. So my last question, I'm going to ask all three of you, and it's quick fire answers only because we're out of time. But what's the biggest misconception about your company? So Matias, since you have the mic, you can go first.
Is there a misconception about NotCo? For sure. We need to start our pitch at least 15 minutes or spend 20 minutes with every single company, telling them that we are not a CPG company, right? We need, we open up the tech, we show them the algorithm, we show them, what we're doing behind the scenes. And they're like, wait, are you kidding me that this is NotCo? Yeah. So communication, I think it's something that we are missing. So a little bit of self-criticism for the industry itself. I think we have not done a great job by communicating this to the, to the general public. We have done this in a very scientific, sustainable way, and the reality is that not everyone cares.
Yep.
So the question that we need to still make is, who cares?
Yep. Yeah. Viraj.
I would say for our company and our sort of sector, which is broadly defined as indoor farming, I think a lot of the misconceptions are around technology. There's been a real veneer of talking a lot about artificial intelligence, data, robotics, automation, which has frankly fueled a lot of the capital that's gone into it, and it's also fueled valuations, I think, to sometimes unsustainable levels. And at the end of the day, it's farming, it's food production, it's dirty, it's messy, you're dealing with a perishable product, you've got to get it on a truck, got to get it to your supermarket, right? There's nothing that sexy about it. So I think one of the misconceptions is, maybe my peers wouldn't want me saying this, is that it's almost gotten too hyped as being, the Tesla, everything's about the Tesla of farming, or how can we just revolutionize everything? And look, we are an applied technology company. There's an amazing amount of automation. These facilities are state of the art. But at the end of the day, you're producing a tomato or a head of lettuce, and you got to deliver it to the supermarket, make sure you have good food safety, good shelf life, and it's got to taste good.
Yes. Uma.
I'd say the biggest misconception is that people, because we're not on the market, still think it is a meat alternative or made from non-animal protein. I think what we're looking to clearly position cultivated meat as is, it is meat from animal cells, just like you would get from an animal that is raised and slaughtered. But I think that's going to be settled as we get to market and people start seeing the core ingredient on this is animal protein, animal DNA, and these are exactly the same cells that you get in a meat that you buy from a butcher. So that's the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
And the one that they're talking about is, when you get out to market, when people taste it, this is food. They've got to taste it. And until then, no matter what we say on a slide or on a stage, it's not going to matter. I think enjoying the product is the magical transformation.
Terrific. Guys, I, for one, am rooting for all three of you. Thanks so much. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Fred.